there are specific proposals that are underlying this, an act concerning accessory dwelling units. And there's my problem. The problem is that the majority party, the Democrats, keep trying to sneak this stuff through. We just had an enormous housing bill that we pushed, the Democrats pushed through in special session without a public hearing. The towns are just starting to realize what's in that bill and how it's going to change this state and how it's going to change the small towns. And now we're going back for another bite before the towns have even been able to digest what we just did a couple of months ago without a public hearing. Now we're going to go back and undo the agreement that we had that the towns would not be forced into this ADU, accessory dwelling unit situation.
Thank you. First of all, I'm always reminded of the good representative's background in theater whenever we get into one of these discussions, and certainly that was a wonderful performance for us today. I am more than a little frustrated when we keep hearing that the bill that we passed last fall didn't have public hearings. I will tell you, just the work, live, ride section alone, we sat through over the course of 3 years to make that bill better and better. I think I counted 36 hours of public hearing testimony that we heard on that bill. So when you hear these things, let's all think critically. Critical thinking is incredibly important as we head into this year especially. And so I would just remind people of that, since we're going to keep referencing 8002 and the fact that it was passed last fall. I won't say shoved down our throats, because that's not the reality of it. Obviously, the governor vetoed it, spent an entire summer working with local officials in order for that to be pushed through, not pushed through, but passed. In the words of Michael Freda, he would say over and over again that it is not, that towns have lost any local control with that bill. So I just, as a Republican representative, I wanted to mention that. This has always been a very bipartisan committee. It will continue to be a bipartisan committee. I do want to remind folks also that not only do we have many, many Republican concepts on this agenda, we had many of them on the first agenda. That is because this year in the Planning and Development Committee, we've received 11-to-1 requests from Republicans versus Democrats in terms of raising concepts. That means we received over 65 bills from the Republican Party, and I believe the number was seven from the Democratic Party of desire to raise concepts. We are in a short session. We have very little time to get bills passed. But we are in the middle of a housing crisis, and I think it's incredibly important that we remember that we are in the middle of a housing crisis. And so this is just one other idea that we are hoping to have discussion about to see whether or not it fits, whether or not it is a good idea to be able to have ADUs be part of the solution to the housing crisis. There are people on this committee who do not believe we have a housing crisis, but I can assure you, in addition to over 8,000 people experiencing homelessness right now, the number one thing that I hear from my constituents, whether they be the parents of disabled adults, whether they be seniors who are trying to downsize, whether they are families who are trying to move to specific districts for specific schools, we are in the middle of a housing crisis that we have to figure out how to solve. I am thrilled that we got 8002 through last year. I am sure that the towns are going to be able to work through. I invite myself to any town that needs further discussion about said bill or understanding what our legislative intent was with that bill. And yes, we are going to continue to discuss concepts within the Planning and Development Committee that would further our way forward through a housing crisis.